Welcome to Light Her Up, your go-to podcast for exploring what it means to align with your passions and create a life filled with freedom, ease, and fulfillment. I'm your host, Natalie Bernacki, a mom, entrepreneur, and certified coach who left a 15-year corporate career to build a life aligned with my passions and help other women do the same. We'll be diving deep into topics like self-discovery, mindset shifts, and the courage to pursue the life you've always dreamed of. Thank you for being here and for prioritizing yourself. I'm honored to be a part of your journey. If you're ready to find your joy, reclaim your identity, and upgrade your life, you're in the right place. Now let's light it up. Hi, loves, and welcome back to the Light Her Up podcast. Today's guest is someone so special, Bre Pasqua, and I actually discovered Bre a few years back when I was going through my own personal transformation, my own spiritual awakening. And I just remember having an Akashic Records reading with Bre, and it was just pure magic. It was a feeling of being seen and really understanding for the first time my soul's path. And it was a transformational experience that I will never forget. Bre is a gifted soul alignment coach and Akashic Records channeler who is guided by her mission of helping sensitives, creatives, and intuitives heal to follow their heart and souls in all aspects of life. Using her gift as a psychic channeler, Bre leverages the wisdom and perspective of spirit to help her clients heal, to stop living controlled by fear, aka the ego, and to start living with ease, purpose, and abundance from the intuition and soul. It's truly going to be a really special episode, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. Now, before we dive in, I do want to remind you, if you are ready for your own expansion, Emily and I are bringing our 2 times sold out in-person masterminds online. So if you are a woman who is ready to launch, scale, or grow your business, if you're craving real support, high-level strategy, and a room full of women who are done playing small, this is for you. No more shrinking, no more waiting. It's time to turn your big vision into your reality. So get on the wait list now. Spots will be limited and you will not want to miss this. So the link is in the show notes for you. And now let's get into today's episode. I am so excited for you to get to know my special guest, Bre Pasqua. Hi, Bre. Welcome to the Light Her Up podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for you and congratulations on everything. The start of the Light Within Collective, the start of this podcast. It's literally a joy to see all of this unfolding for you. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. That means the world because honestly, when I met you, and now I was trying to remember, how did I meet you? And I met you through following this woman here in the South Bay who does Reiki and intuitive healing. Her name is Scarlett. And then I found you and I followed your journey, and you had such a similar journey in the sense that you left corporate America and then just took the leap and started your own business based on what your intuition was telling you. And that was so profound to me. And it was during the time that I was going through my awakening. So it was just really special. And come full circle, you're here on my podcast and I can't believe it.
Yeah, I kind of feel very similarly. I love the people that come into my space. I'm a Cancer rising. I'm let's make everybody comfortable. Let's be connected. And so people that come in and do readings with me, especially that Akashic activation, even though I don't always remember the details because I'm kind of in a different energy, bringing it through, I remember all of you.
Yeah.
And you're in my heart, you're my people. And so to see somebody like you take the information that came through about what you were contracted for and things you were healing and ways that you could step into your power and authenticity and put that into action. And these years later, you yourself are a healer and guide, and you have a business that's really heart led. I could cry if I thought about it too much. I won't, because I want to keep it together. That's how much it means to me. That's how excited I am for you guys. That's how thrilled I am for you. So it's an honor to have been a small part in this journey with you.
Thank you. And not a small part. You were a big part, whether you know it or not. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for that.
Okay. So for those of you For those of the people meeting you here on this podcast for the first time, can you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about what you do today?
Absolutely. My journey has evolved. So I will give you the description of what I'm doing right now. I'm a manifesting generator too, so things are like always changing, evolving, and I love that for me. Um the titles that I'm using right now are I am a channeler. I specifically channel into something called the Akashic Records, which are the records of everything. And really what it means is I'm tapping into my clients' soul records, the soul contracts, the soul objectives that they set coming into their life, so that they can maximize their evolution, their growth, their joy, their expression, their authenticity, etc. So I channel into those Akashic records. I have channeling sessions. I incorporate that into the other title that I have, which is a spiritual coach. So really what I'm teaching people in my coaching is I'm teaching a lot of like sensitives and intuitives and creatives how to do really deep shadow work. It's kind of the name that we call it in these healing circles,
Yeah.
which is how we can meet some of our deepest fears and our deepest pain, how we can process them, how we can find the truth that's trying to be unveiled through them, and how we can introduce some love into them, right? And through that process, we transmute them, we transform them, we're liberated from them, we're more empowered on the other side, right? And so I do coaching on that like really deep healing process, which helps those people become much more aligned with their hearts, with their intuitions, with their souls, right? And able to move forward into their life being led from that place instead of being led from the fear. So channeler and spiritual coach are the titles I'm using right now, and a little bit about what those mean.
I love it. Your work is like so incredibly powerful, and I'm like obsessed with the gifts that you have. It's so cool.
You want to know what's crazy is that I like a lot of people come into sessions with me and they have this question of like, what are my gifts? Right. Because I also like teaching people how to just be more connected with themselves and their intuition. And that looks a little bit different for everybody. And it's funny that like I'll channel what the Akashic record keepers say for other people about that, but I'm still in that journey myself. Like
Mm.
I was just kind of doing what felt good and what felt right and following the flow of things. And it's been through me having this as a business that I've been able to identify more of what my gifts even are, you know?
Mhm.
And just like really what's been fun. And I have had people reflect some things back to me, you know? And so of course I always knew that I love to yap. I love a little chat. I loved public speaking. I like did it like in high school. Like I just love it. Right. So the
Yeah.
speaking thing was always in the zone for me. I've always been told I articulate things very well and I take a lot of pride and I'm so thoughtful, my Virgo sun, about like exactly what I say and how I say it. That's always been a gift. But what I've realized in coaching is that I have a superpower for sensing when we're at the heart of what's really going on. Like, are we really
Mm.
talking about what we're talking about? Are we talking about the real fear and anxiety of under that? Are we talking about the limiting belief that's really in that for you? And I'll talk with clients and I'll be like, I don't feel like we're there yet. Well, I'm really good at asking questions too. That's another superpower to kind of unlock the subconscious elements of all of it. And we get there and I'm like, we made it. I could
Yeah.
sense it like in my body, you know? And it's been so fun to let that gift assist in my clients' intentions for them kind of like unraveling the knots that they kind of have in them in their own selves. And it's just been really fun. So thank you for acknowledging that like you enjoyed the gifts that I have, because that's also been a fun journey for me to
Yeah.
start to be able to see and call out the gifts that I think that I have and be really intentional in how I use them in the different ways that I'm offering things to, you know, the people that are following along, you know.
I love it so much. Yes.
Yay.
And that is so interesting to know that, yes, even though you have these gifts, and like, for example, I see them as these like incredibly powerful gifts, and they are, you are also still going through the journey. Like, we are all going through a journey. So
Everyone all the time, and it never stops too,
I
you
know.
know. I think like baby Brie and all of this thought that like, oh, I can't wait to get to the destination and then I'm gonna feel like,
Yeah,
I made it and I'm finally not gonna feel stressed and I'm not gonna feel this. But that's such a myth, you
I
know.
know. I know.
That's
We're going to find out that there is never a destination.
no, but there are certain things you can do that help make the processes you're going to be in over and over again a little bit easier. But really, that's kind of just surrendering to the journey, you know?
Totally. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, okay. Can you take us back to the moment when, or season, I guess, when you realized that you were being called toward this intuitive healing and this soul alignment work?
Yes. It's such a fun story. I did like a full deep dive on it. If anybody resonates with this, on my own podcast, I did an episode about it. But here's the cliff notes. Okay, I was one of those kids, and I don't know that I would have ever said it out loud, but I always had this thought: I'm supposed to do something really important. Like, I'm supposed to do something special. I'm supposed to do something that's impactful, you know? And part of me was like, oh, maybe I'm just kind of like thinking highly of myself, or like, that's just like the thing everybody thinks. But as I talked to more people in adulthood, I realized not everybody had this thought of like, there's something important I'm supposed to do, right? And that's started to take shape. I thought it might have to do with, you know, healing work with people. I had a lot of really crazy synchronistic experiences, even as a teenager, with people coming to me with like really deep stuff. And, you know, just went about my business, went about my life. College, I thought I was going to be a vet for a little while, went to UC Davis, studied animal science, switched that up, went into corporate world, just, you know, like whatever. And through my own journey, I realized how much I love psychology. I love human nature. I love healing. I love the holistic, metaphysical, spiritual arts, right? And that image of what I might do that would be really impactful started to take shape. I'm like, I think this is going to be some sort of healing practice with people, but I still didn't know what that was, you know? And so part of it was a slow progression of like the picture becoming clearer and clearer. At first I knew there was something, but it was almost like it was like blurry, right? But I knew it was there. And I said, okay, it's going to show me what it's here to show me, you know? And like over time and time, it gets a little bit more clear, a little bit more clear, a little bit more clear. And I was at a meetup for a podcast that I love, Mystic Michaela. She's an aura reader, psychic. She's phenomenal, phenomenal. Highly recommend her to anybody. She had a meetup. I was there with friends, and somebody in the crowd had said, oh, like, what does it mean to have a Capricorn sun, moon, and rising? And I said, oh, I know. Astrology is one of the things I've studied, right? And so I turned around and I start talking to her. And really what I think I was doing was channeling, but I was channeling with the knowledge I knew about astrology, right? And all of a sudden, she's like got tears in her eyes. There's like a circle of people around us. Like people are so into it. And the whole rest of the afternoon, I have people coming up to me and asking me to explain their charts to them. And at the end of the day, one of my friends said to me, Bre, like, I don't think you understand how powerful that was. Like you were doing something there. Like you need to do this. You need to sell this as a service. I would buy this for my friends. Like you need to just do it. And that was the moment that clicked for me. I'd been waiting for kind of the sign of like, okay, when am I starting this healing business? What exactly am I doing, guides? I'm along for the ride. Just show it to me. And that weekend, the combination of me feeling in the zone and all of a sudden everybody's leaning in and like they can't get enough. And my friends being like, Bre, you got to do it. I was like, okay. I got home from that trip. I created Healing with Bre LLC. I started creating my website. I created my first offering, which at the time was astrology readings. And I just got started. And it's evolved since then, but I had to start for it to evolve. Right. Yeah. So it was astrology first, then it was Reiki certifications and different energy healing certifications. Then it was training in channeling the Akashic Records, and it was doing channeling sessions for that. And then with working with that, I realized I didn't want to just bring the messages of what people should do, but I wanted to help teach them how to do it because I had a gift for that. Right. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm doing now has evolved. But that moment that was like, okay, it's time to go, was that weekend, and was the synchronicity and like the people kind of reflecting that back to me. And it was the culmination of like those years of the picture getting clearer and clearer. And it was like, it's go time, you know?
Oh my gosh, that gave me the chills. And and that was when you were still in corporate world, right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. That was in my first corporate job. And while I was there, I started the business. Actually, was it while I was still at that first corporate job? I think so. There was a couple corporate jobs that I did, right? Because I knew it wasn't quite time to leave and do this full time yet. I could sense it, but I knew it was coming. So I was like, okay, I'll do my corporate job in the meantime. I'll do my kind of stuff on the side, you know? So yeah, I was still in the corporate world at that time.
Oh my gosh. Wild.
Wild.
And now you're just fully in your business, going all in on you, full flush, like everything.
You want to know about this is that I have been doing my business full time now for 2 years. I opened it in 2022. I left my corporate job in 2023. And yeah, literally last week was my 3-year anniversary of Healing with Bre. And you know, it's been a journey. Yes, the last 2 years I've been doing it full time, but honestly, I'm feeling the pull towards maybe doing a side thing, another job along with the business. My energy is pulling me towards that. And I feel like excited about that. But I also feel the need to just be really honest about that. Like I might go back and do something else. And I feel excited about that. The variety, the kind of taking the pressure off my business, the getting inspiration from different places and getting to like get some variety in my day feels important, like from an energetic standpoint. So yes, I'm still doing my business. I'm still all in. I'm still creating. And that's like such an important place for me to express myself and where I feel like spirit works through me to create an impact. And for the last couple of years, it has been doing this full time. I've learned so so many things. I've built a lot of stuff out in my business. And now that it's kind of running, I might go back and do something fun. Who knows? And
Yeah.
like, that's good too, you know?
Yeah. And we're going to be getting into some of that as far as like, I know we're going to talk about using your intuition as your life's compass. So I
Yes.
love that you're doing that and you're just true to who you are, regardless of what season you're in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
amazing.
I know what we're planning to talk about is kind of like how our fears are a part of this equation of following our intuition, because I really feel like our intuition is leading us to our path of least resistance, you know,
Yes.
and to the path of our highest potential. But sometimes it leads us straight into big fears we had. And just to close out that kind of note about what I'm doing with my business, like I had a lot of fears around what it would mean if I didn't just do my business. If there was something else I
Mm.
wanted to do to bring an income in addition to my business, did it mean I failed? Did it mean I didn't do this enough? Did it mean I not do that? Like all of these kinds of like the underlying things. And my intuition was very clearly showing me, like, don't make it mean all of that, but like, we want your energy someplace else. Like, can you just listen? Can you, like, with the bigger picture you have for your life, can you just like surrender a little bit that this might be a part of the piece to make the bigger life picture come together, you know?
Yeah.
So they often go hand in hand, that intuition and your ability to like really move through and capture some of the things that those fears are trying to show you and also liberate you from.
Oh my gosh, 100%. They absolutely, it's like this duality of life and like
Hmm.
your intuition constantly speaking to your fears and your fears constantly speaking to your intuition. So,
Yes.
oh my gosh. Okay. So I know that there are many women who are probably listening right now and they have this ego part of them and this fear part of them popping up.
Hmm.
And they're trying to grow and get past this. And you have a really beautiful perspective on this. So, can you explain what is the deeper purpose of our ego and of our fears?
Hmm. Ooh, it's so juicy. This is my favorite things to talk about. So thank you for asking me this question. Um, here's the long story short. Our fears are meant to lead us back into ourselves and to find a deeper truth and to find deeper freedom, right? But in the absence of the tools or the processes or the experience of how to use our fears that way, it kind of evolves into fears, meaning we run from ourselves and we run outside of ourselves,
Mhm.
right? It feels like something that we have to run away from, something that we have to suppress because our fears feel bigger than us. They feel insurmountable without, again, those tools, those processes, those experiences of how to move through them. Right?
Mhm.
They're like, they feel like literally like bigger. They're looming. They're big. They're dark. They're like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. Turn, run. You know, like get that thing out of here. How do I, you
Yeah.
know, it's moving against me. It's blocking me. We come up with all this language that makes fears feel like an adversary, but even in like the laws of physics, what we fight, we energize. Right.
Mhm.
So, a real big core of what feels true to me and of my work is how can we surrender? How can we find some compassion while still being led by our dreams or our truth or our heart in anything that we face, especially the deep, dark, scary stuff in ourselves? Right. So, more specifically with fears, um, here's something that's fun to understand as we're kind of breaking all this apart is that I have the language of our ego self, our ego mind, literally, that holds things like our fears, and our soul self, right? Which could be used synonymously with our heart, our intuition, our higher self, spirit, right? Like that, those are things I might use interchangeably. Use whatever language works for you, listener. And then there's the part of ourselves that's like our ego mind and our fears. Now, our ego works very differently than our soul. Our ego is literally like attached to our brain, the different parts of our brain. And its purpose is to help us survive and to help us navigate this like 3D human world. Right. So it's important. It's our friend, it's our amigo, but not a leader. It's not a great leader, right? Our
Mhm.
soul is meant to be the leader.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, when we come into like the spiritual awakening, healing kind of work, we've landed at a certain point of our lives where our ego has run the show. And when our ego, being only concerned with surviving, it puts everything in a binary of is it survivable or is it not survivable on the deep, like subconscious level. And how that shows up on the surface is it good or bad? Is it right or wrong? Is it safe
Mhm.
or is it unsafe? Right? Like, or it puts it into these things and it comes up with these coping strategies to help us avoid everything that's bad, as a way to try and protect us. And those strategies look like perfectionism and control and urgency and people pleasing and, you know, feeling like we have to earn everything or we have to hustle or, you know, we got to force things, right? Like those are ego strategies that are born out of this intention of surviving and
Mhm.
avoiding the things that feel dangerous on a subconscious level. right? Whereas the soul's purpose is growth, it's evolution, it's expansion, it's expression, it's love, it's joy. It feels very different, right?
Mhm.
And so when we understand the different ways that they function and the different purposes that they have, that can be a really good kicking off place for starting to look at what our fears are doing for us a little differently.
Mhm.
Right. And when we tap into some of that soul energy, it's wisdom, it's love, and we come and meet these parts of ourselves that are holding these stories and these beliefs that leave us feeling terrorized, like just terrified about what could happen, we can start to see, how are you trying to protect me? What is it that you believe about myself or the world that's making you feel like we are not empowered here?
Mhm.
Right? What misconceptions might I have formed, usually in childhood, about how all of this works that's leaving me feeling like I'm actually in danger?
Mhm.
And how can we introduce some compassion? How can we introduce some love? How can we introduce some truth according to how
Mhm.
our soul understands things, so we feel liberated? And so this energy can finally be dissolved and released. And maybe these beliefs can be reprogrammed a little bit, right? So, very long story kind of summarized in that, but our fears are supposed to point us into that process. They're supposed to point us into, if there's pain here, something must be misinterpreted. Something must be wonky, because we're not meant
Mhm.
to live in pain, and pain is a sign we're living according to something that's just not true.
Mhm.
Right. So when we feel the fear, we got to come back into ourselves and say, ooh, where am I a little disempowered? Where am I not understanding something correctly? Where does something in me need a little TLC? Because it becomes a doorway then
Mhm.
to freedom, to liberation, to empowerment. But we just have to learn how to pass through the doorway to get there. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, so much sense. So, ironically, I mean, it's like we're conditioned growing up, right? Like these things that you mentioned, inner child, things that happen in childhood that show up in us and we've never faced them head on.
Mm-hmm.
Or like for when you were saying we're just trained to run, like that was typical me. Like I either was either trying to seek validation from every single person that I met,
Mm-hmm.
or I was just running away, like closing the door, running away, and never coming back. And those things come back to haunt you later. Like
They
running
end up
away.
being Yeah, they end up being self-fulfilling prophecies, ironically enough. When you're
Yeah.
doing something from fear, you're kind of creating it, which
Yeah.
is like really, it messes you up sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So, really, like being able to work through that fear, lean on your intuition is what will get you through it. So, I want to know from you, like, how can we start relating differently to facing the fear instead of just completely shutting down? Because there is that what is it, fight, flight, or freeze.
Mhm.
When something like fear pops up, and we all have fears. I
Mhm.
mean, it, like you mentioned, it is truly like our subconscious trying to keep us safe at the end of
Mhm.
the day. So,
Mhm.
one thing I've started to implement is sort of what you just mentioned, as far as like when something does pop up, firstly, having that awareness of like, wow, I'm feeling this kind of way. In the past, I would just not even be aware of that. I would just be really dysregulated and in fear and really not even knowing that I'm running away from it.
Mhm.
So, firstly, bringing awareness and then asking myself, why? Why am I feeling this way?
Mhm.
So, what would you do? Is that sort of on track? Are there any other things that you would share?
Yeah, so when I do coaching work with people, I actually have what I call the trigger alchemy process. Because when something comes to the surface, right, when it's actually like visceral, like it's like
Mhm.
like I have anxiety in my stomach, or I'm angry about something, or I'm sad about something, it's something from our subconscious mind surfacing into
Mhm.
our conscious awareness, right? I think those are really great opportunities to work with something that doesn't need to be there like that. So
Mhm.
being able to work with these different triggers, and fear and anxiety being one of the biggest triggers, um a whole process for how to walk through that. And here are some of the elements for anybody who is curious about what that could look like. Yes, pausing, having a little mindfulness and awareness is a big piece of it, right?
Mhm.
Um, I'd say a big thing that needs to shift is how you're labeling, how you're choosing to perceive these fears, right? Again, if you have this kind of adversarial kind of language around it, like, oh, I got to just push past that fear, or I just got to get out of here, or, just don't let it get you down. And like this kind of like trying to run past it. I mean, I would just consider looking at that differently. I might try to look at that as, okay, there's a part of me that's very scared, and how can I attend to the part of myself that's feeling really scared, as if you had a little child come up to you and say, I'm terrified here. Maybe they're in tears. Maybe they're angry. Like if they ran up to you, would you just be like, get out of here, kid? Like probably not, you know? So like, if we looked at it like that,
Yeah.
then some of our defensiveness might like soften,
Yep.
right? Now, the actual tools for like how you can use different kinds of self-inquiry to get to the root of what this is about is where there's a little bit of like trickiness. You know, some people really have a knack for it, and there's so many resources out there about journal prompts and meditations and things that you can do to get more in touch with the purpose that's under the fear. Go nuts, follow your intuition about what that looks like for you. But there is definitely that level of questioning yourself of what's this really about? What am I really afraid of? And once you feel like you get to the core, you ask yourself, is that really the truth? And that's when
Mm-hmm.
I incorporate my intuition, or I invite my clients to invite their higher self and just tell me, like, what's the truth about this, right? Like, what was the origin story where this was formed? Again, probably in childhood. And can I see that situation through new eyes? Can I validate the part of myself that felt that way? Because that's where healing comes from, with
Mm-hmm.
compassion. But can I also incorporate like a bigger truth now as an adult with different, you know, things online in my brain and different, you know, capabilities I have through maturity, right? To be able to see this differently so I can update my belief system, like my
Mm-hmm.
computer radar operating system in my subconscious mind, to be able to move forward through this a little different, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes fears are indications about what we need to be safe, right? And sometimes they're pointing us towards being a little bit more empowered and advocating and helping ourselves meet our own needs. So sometimes our higher selves have some suggestions on actions we need to take to create more safety in our bodies, you know? And sometimes that's enough to address the fear, but depending on what it is, it's like meeting it with curiosity and compassion, and letting that sort of intuitive heart-led place be the quote unquote kind of adult in the picture as you're moving through it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes and oftentimes there's kind of like resolution actions. Maybe there's some, you know, actions you need to take. I really love something like EFT tapping to help
Yeah.
really clear out some energy and like really anchor in these new beliefs. Sometimes doing like meditations and visualizations can again help you like really choose that new energy. Sometimes you just got to come in for different levels of healing on that same fear. Like
Right.
sometimes you just gotta, you start one level, you go a little deeper, you go a little deeper. And sometimes that's just the way that it works to get some of these
Yeah.
deep rooted ones. But every single time I do something like a trigger alchemy session with a client, they are amazed at the relief that they feel almost instantaneously. Like
Mm-hmm.
they think that if they meet this fear, they're going to get lost in it. They're going to get drowned in it, that it's going to be too big for them, that the pain is going to be too much. But those are only sensations in the body, right?
Right.
And when you know how to move through those in a way where your body and your nervous system is regulated, usually when you're co-regulating with somebody else, and you keep that sort of like determination for the truth and for compassion, it's amazing how much better you feel. It's amazing how much more
Yeah.
space for love you have in your body when you've cleared out some of this fear. You feel like, oh my gosh, I can breathe a full like lung full of air. Like it's astonishing and it's surprising because again, there's this idea that the fear is somehow going to overtake you, or the pain or the shame. And there's really a powerful relief that comes from being able to finally meet them with that compassion and curiosity, and to move fully through them instead of to keep running away from them, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, one of the things that I love that you said was the perspective of when if a little kid was to walk up to you and they were to be really scared or sad or angry, and how you would meet them with compassion. So, it's so interesting you say that, because usually when I hear someone give an example, it's about meeting yourself, meeting you as a little kid. And I think it's so powerful to actually kind of detach from it. I'm all about inner child stuff. I love it. It's been so powerful.
Hmm.
And I think when you're forced to look at someone else approaching
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
I don't know what it is about human nature, but it's so much easier to feel empathy and have compassion towards other people than it is to be about ourselves sometime, which I guess is part of the whole process and journey in and of itself.
Yeah.
And the second thing that you mentioned that really resonated with me was sort of like the relief of when you face this fear. So it like it I can't even think of the word. Something that I'm thinking of, like an analogy, is when you have something that you're unsure of, you're uncertain. That uncertainty is what kills people. It's the uncertainty of knowing. It's this looming cloud over you of like, what's going to happen? And that's kind of like fear too, because it's your subconscious that's like, well, if you do this, then this could happen, or this is a potential. And it's this looming cloud of somewhat uncertainty. But the moment that you're able to really just surrender and be like, okay, I'm going to sit here and be honest with myself. I'm going to face this fear. Why am I feeling this way? Where is this fear coming from? It's sort of like you're gaining clarity on that. And it's a lot of, this big sense of relief.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, that first thing you said, I incorporate parts work into the
Oh,
kind
love
of
it.
work that I do with people. And really what that means for me is you're personifying these parts of yourself in front of you. So you do get a little bit of a detachment, right?
Uh-huh.
Because if we're identified with something too much, we tend to censor it. Right.
Yep.
So when we are able to look at it and personify it as like a part of us, it allows that part to be expressed more.
Yes.
Right. Because we have to connect with something before we ever do any correcting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have to invite these energies within us to tell us their stories, to tell us what they're feeling, to tell us what they're afraid of. And being able to see it as something separate than us allows our brain to stop censoring it so much so we can see what it's really about. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. And that's why it's like a really big part of how I coach people to move through this kind of stuff. And yeah, even for something like uncertainty, I find for that, it's also often a question of self-trust.
Yeah.
um because the need for like the step 1 through 10, and I need to know exactly the outcome and how we get there, that's an ego strategy, right? That's a strategy that's born from fear.
Yeah.
Makes sense, it's understandable, we're taught it, it's fine, it's okay, we don't need to fight it, we don't need to judge it, right? But the alternative in all of this is like, do we trust ourselves to navigate any part of the process that could come up? Right? Do we trust our instincts about what our next step is, really, which is our intuition? Coming back into the intuition as a compass, right? Like, do I believe that I could land in a place that's purposeful, land in a place that's safe, keep myself safe at any point in time, right? And that everything is going to be okay if I'm just like letting my intuition tell me one step at a time, right? Or do
Mm-hmm.
I think that somehow the only way to manufacture safety is to like see every step 1 through 10 and have my brain with its limited information really, calculate what it thinks? It's like, no, like that's not going to guarantee you safety either, but it's just your
Right.
ego mind when it's in charge. It's best strategy that it has for you, right? Versus when we have our heart or our intuition step into that leader role, like having that energy of like, okay, universe, you have this intelligent design for things that I don't want to manage. Like that's too big of a job for me. I don't know anyway, you got more perspective than I do anyway. So just here's my dreams, here's my greatest desires, here's my intention, and just guide my presence, guide my intuition, and like help me be brave enough to take each step along the way. Help me be present enough and just get me the best way there. Get me the path of least resistance. It's of my highest potential, highest impact. Just take me there. I trust your plan better than I would my plan anyway. You know what I mean? And there's a certain amount of self-trust we have to have in that.
Yeah.
And a certain amount of trust we kind of have in the universe too. So I can understand how that concept ends up being a tricky point for all of us at some point.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a version of us kind of facing some of our underlying fears.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And it is like a constant battle. You're absolutely right in that the logical part of us, that's where the fear comes up. And that's where when we are making decisions, we tend to make decisions based out of fear versus this intuition, this intuitive side of us, where if we're making decisions from that, that's from a much higher vibrational frequency than if we're making decisions out of fear. So, pivoting a little bit from fear to intuition, how do you start to build that muscle of self trust to start even hearing your intuition? Because
Mhm.
I do believe it's a muscle that you have to build to kind of like learn, hey, is that my intuition or is that fear? Or what is that voice that I'm hearing? What is that little nudge that I'm feeling? And how do you start? I guess what are your top tips for starting to hear your intuition and start to trust your intuition and start to listen and make decisions from that intuition?
Mm, juicy. Love it. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Okay. So first, what you said about And here's my thing. Again, my Virgo, I'm a little like particular about language, not because it really matters, but just because I feel like we're tapping into a lot of magic with that. I Again, adversarial language, we don't need it. The battle, I don't think it's so much a battle.
Right. Oh, so true.
I feel like it's a dance.
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like our fear, our ego mind represents our humanness. And there's a reason why we've incarnated as a human, and it's to learn through things like fear.
Yeah.
It's not to escape it. It's not to never be in pain. It's not to never feel self-doubt. It's not like if we didn't want to experience that, we wouldn't have incarnated. You know what I'm saying? Like,
True.
it's a part of the human experience. I feel like the pain and the fear and the doubt, it deepens us.
Hmm.
Right. And we kind of oscillate back and forth with purpose. Sometimes we're very clearly in like an intuitive, empowered energy. And then it's time for a deeper fear to come up to get cleared out. Okay, we learn it. We're in a very empowered soul energy. And then another fear comes up. It's time for us to deepen into who we are and like our sense of self and our sense of peace and like whatever. It's time to level up, baby. And we level up through the fears, right? So we have this dance back and forth, and fear is one of the mechanisms that we deepen, right?
Hmm.
So we don't need to be afraid of it when we have the tools. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So here's the question. How do we come back into that intuitive side? Again, understanding the way the body works is really helpful for this. What's felt true for me is that when we are in a dysregulated physiological state, our nervous system is dysregulated. Our intuition is very hard to access, right? Yes, learning about the different nervous system states, flight, freeze, fawn, fight, all of those,
Hmm.
right? Vagal nerve theory, right? I think that that's a really, really great place to start.
Hmm.
Learning about the different nervous system states, which one do you tend to fall into? Can that explain maybe, obsessive thinking or hypervigilance or a constant fluttering your chest, or maybe you're in the freeze category, which myself and a lot of my clients relate to, of this kind of like, I just can't get motivation for anything, and I just sleep all the time, and I can't get, I'm always sitting. I'm like a couch
Yeah.
potato all the time. I don't want to do anything, like whatever it is, I don't have energy, I have fatigue, like,
Yeah.
I'm depressed, like whatever. Figure out where you're at and start to craft your path into teaching your body that you're safe, because that's what you got to do. You kind of got to step up to the wheel here. You got to take a little leadership, right? Over
Yeah.
yourself, and you got to show your body that you're safe, right?
Hmm.
Physiologically, I think, is one of the first things to attend to. You kind of got to unlock the intuition in you by creating safety in the body. When your ego mind doesn't think that it has to be in danger mode, it chills out a little bit, and it's a little bit more open to your intuition coming in and influencing things, right?
Hmm.
So regulate your body, number one. Number two, you're probably going to need to do some mindset and belief work, right? Because those mindset and beliefs are what we're probably triggering some of those fear responses, triggering some of that survival mode, right? And so you want to get to like the upstream point that all of this was happening. You want to get to the first domino, right? So that you're not constantly in the mode where like you get anxious and you regulate. You get anxious, like why are you getting anxious? And then maybe if you deal with that, you won't have to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So doing some
Totally.
mindset and belief work to help keep your body regulated, right? And then it's about fun.
Yeah.
That's the best part. The intuition, the soul, the heart speaks through joy, speaks through fun, speaks through inspiration, whereas the ego mind speaks through fear and shame, pressure, that kind of stuff. So depending on what the underlying energy is, you can tell if it's soul intuition energy or if it's fear energy. And the only way you're going to learn that is just to experiment. You
Yep.
just got to start experimenting. Once you've learned how to put your body in safe mode, you got to come back into your body, right? Build the mind body connection. That might be meditating, that might be exercising, but we got to like come back into the body sensation, because the intuition mostly speaks through the body, right?
Hmm.
And we got to be able to feel like, what is it? What's the somatic feeling in my body when I think about doing this one thing? Am I excited? Do I feel a little pressure? Do I feel nothing? Okay. Oh, maybe this like inspiration to wear a certain outfit today, or to eat a certain meal, or to call a certain friend. Like those are intuitive feelings. Follow them,
Yeah.
baby. Follow them, and start leaning into, again, how do I feel? What is the underlying motivation behind this? And again, if it's joy, if it's inspiration, if it's excitement, it's probably your intuition. You might not be sure. Is it fear? Is it not?
Right.
Just go and see. It'll
Yeah.
reveal itself. I'll tell you what, it'll reveal itself. And little by little, you get a stronger sense of which sort of channel this information is coming from. And you choose more and more to follow the intuition. You're probably going to have to do some of that shadow work along the way. There's some
Yeah.
fears that come up associated with you following your intuition. Again, that dance back and forth.
Mhm.
And before you know it, you have a stronger connection to your own body, your own desires, your own intuition, so that you can start to let that lead the way instead of all the fear stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So powerful. So I recently went to a retreat. It was an embodiment expansion retreat in South Florida. This was just a couple weeks ago, and we did a lot of dancing with our shadow.
Mm,
And ironically, we were outside and the sun was shining down, so you could actually see your shadow. And so as you're dancing and you're making these moves, you could see your shadow. And it was such a beautiful I can't even explain it. It was so beautiful because you're right. Like a lot of times we see our shadow and it can bring up a lot of fears and a lot of kind of like deep wounds that we've had from the past, things that we don't want to actually face in the mirror. But to see the shadow instead of the reflection in the mirror, it gave me such a different perspective. And it was
mm.
such a, like you said, not a battle, a dance. It was so beautiful. So I love that you call it a dance, number one. And the other thing when it comes to the intuition and the somatics and everything. So you talk about like when you start listening to your intuition, that's when the flow and the ease and all of these like feelings of just smoothness and freedom, all these, good words that you hear. Um, when you start listening to your intuition and then you get to like tap into that third part, like you said, that fun and that inspiration and all of that stuff, when you start to do that, you're building the self trust. Are there any things that you do when you're reflecting back on, like, how does my body feel? Okay, this feels really good. I want to wear this outfit today, or I want to go talk to this person today, or I want to start doing this other job today, like kind of giving yourself permission to know also that you're not stuck in one lane. You can always be evolving and always change. Um, how do you anchor that feeling in to know that that's my intuition? That's that feeling that I know is the intuition. And I want to anchor that in so I know that that's my intuition talking to me going forward.
For me, I feel like I've taken time and given myself permission to learn my process, and I'm still learning my process. Lord knows it. um, some of these like self-development tools have been helpful, human design in particular, being a manifesting generator. I'm also emotional authority. So what that means for me, and I'm also like a Pisces moon, and that's like another element of all of this that kind of feels related, is sometimes I gotta wait and see how I feel about something. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's my process. Sometimes I immediately am like, yes, let's do it. Right. And some other things I'm like, okay, there's something to this. I'm having a hard time kind of sensing like the different elements of it. And I give myself some time. I don't run away from it. I don't avoid it, but I let there be time. I have a sleep or two or three,
Mm-hmm.
and I come back to it. And usually there's more clarity about my own feelings in my own body. Sometimes it takes a little time. That's my
Yeah.
process for really big decisions. Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that like especially again, and I use this language because this helps me identify parts of myself, but like my Virgo sun and Mercury, like I love a plan, I love a logic, and I don't think that our intuition is ever in opposition to that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just the leader and the logic that comes and supports that. Right. So a lot of my decisions too have also been based on like what is happening in my real life. Like sometimes we just got some responsibilities that we got to attend to. We got to be able to look honestly at what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like look at what's happening and say, okay, like, what do I know is probably where there needs to be an adjustment? And why don't I invite my intuition to help guide me about where that adjustment can be? Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe in my body, I'm feeling like something's just not a fit. I'm feeling a little too anxious. I'm feeling a little restless, or I'm just not feeling in the zone. And then I maybe look logically about at my schedule and I'm like, okay, so where are
Yeah.
things feeling a little wonky? Right. Like they can really come in time together. Right.
Yep.
So sometimes just like the practical things that are presenting themselves to me are another way of the universe helping guide me, right?
Yeah.
And I trust myself to be like, all right, universe, if this is the circumstances that are presenting themselves,
Yeah.
I'm going to make the best choice that I can in these circumstances according to my intuition about it. And I make the choice. I check in with myself. How is my feeling? Are we still moving in this direction? Are we pivoting? Are we not pivoting? And I do that over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's sometimes like we just got to follow through and you just got to see how it feels. And you got to have permission for you to change your mind. You got to have permission to fail. You got to have permission to start and realize, maybe
Yeah.
it's different. Maybe you keep it going. Like, but but that ability for you to let it flow all the way through you into action, flow all the way through you down through your root chakra into the physical world and not just in the land of mental
Yeah.
ideas, right? Is like a really important, right? Because
Yeah.
once you let that idea flow through you and ground, the next idea has room to flow through you, or else everything's all bottlenecked. Does that make sense?
Yes. It makes so much sense.
Hmm.
Oh, so, so good. I just love too how it all, like you mentioned, goes hand in hand.
Hmm.
It all goes hand in hand. And I'm gonna try some of those practices that you mentioned today.
Yes, I love it. And I had a coach that said something wonderful. Hoodwinkler, Jackie, she's a manifestation coach. Love it.
Okay.
She had said something to me, and we were like looking at different stuff for my business, and trying to figure out how can I tap into the most impact and also the most abundant in my business, because let's be real, a lot of us are thinking and asking those questions, as we
Yeah.
should. Again, practical,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said is like, which of these things do you have the most fun doing? And I was
Mhm.
like, easy. At the time, my podcast, easy. She's like, how do you do more of that? And I was like,
Yeah.
that is a simple and effective question,
Yeah.
And then I was creating an offer, a group program that I was thinking of doing, and you know kind of like in that creative process, which can be really hard. Like learning how to master your own creative process is, whew, man,
Yeah.
is that shadow work or what? You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that she had said was, I found that the things that I'm meant to be creating, the things that are meant to have the biggest impact, are the things that I would be creating anyway. Even if they didn't have an outcome, even if I wasn't trying to make money, like I just would do them because I love it.
Yes.
Like it's just what I love to do. The fact that I get to do it for my job is a bonus. And sometimes that can also make it a little bit more complicated. But again, it's always coming back to like, where is your joy with things?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not for the sake of the outcome, which is an ego strategy, right? But
Yeah.
for the sake of the process of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm here with you because I love talking with people. I love
Yeah.
yapping in general. Don't get me wrong. I get in the zone. I'm like, guys, tell me what you want me to say. And I'm like, my defined throat chakra in human design. But like, I like the process of this, of connecting with people and talking about these ideas and feeling the energy move around them. Like, I love it. Now, does it
Yes.
accomplish other purposes of like, attracting people that are meant to come into my community, or maybe a service or something? Sure, of course. There's that element too. But like, I'm doing this because I friggin' love it. And if I
Yeah.
wasn't on this podcast, I'd be on the phone with one of my girlfriends having the same
Right.
conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like, how that's the way our soul speaks. That's the way
Yeah.
our intuition speaks, is like,
Yeah.
what are you coming back to over and over again? Because it's part who you are and part where there's joy, you
Right.
know? So for what it's worth.
Totally. Totally. And I do feel like it's interesting because when you were mentioning that, there are themes from my life that just keep coming back. They keep revisiting. And then I'm a manifesting generator as well. So I feel like I'm doing 1,000 things at once. And sometimes
Hmm.
I feel like a chicken with my head cut off. But then sometimes I'm like, but this is fun for me. And I love doing all the things. And why can't I do all the things? I totally can do all the things. And then also, the piece about like the intuition and the fear doing the dance together too. I think there was something that you mentioned. There was a thread in there about like how you were telling the story about how right now you're all in on your business because that's where your intuition led you. You were in this joy and this fun that you were just loving doing it.
Hmm.
And you're also like, and now I might be called to do something in addition to it.
Hmm.
And knowing that that is actually okay to pivot and that what was aligned with you previously during a certain season
Hmm.
may call for something different during another season, and that's
Hmm.
okay. And just
Yes.
continuing to follow your intuition and let that be the compass. Like, I just love that whole thread and that theme and that through line of everything that you just talked about. It's so powerful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's one of my things right
Yeah.
now. And I'm like, cool, let's learn this. Let's deepen
Yeah.
into this. For me, it was detaching a little bit of my worth from some of that career stuff.
Totally.
And here I was like, and again, I feel like on some level we do know stuff and then we are invited to know it a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
you know? So like I knew this concept of like, my worth isn't attached to like my outcomes or my business or whatever. But when I was getting this kind of signs in my life and also in myself that, go do something else, Brie. Like get another
Yep.
job of some kind, maybe apply to corporate jobs again if you want to, maybe apply
Yeah.
for part-time stuff, just go out there. And when I was feeling this resistance and this like kind of like pain in myself about it. I was like, wait, like, what is that about? And I realized that again, I was attaching all of this worth and putting all this pressure on how it turned out when I left the corporate world for my business, because it's kind of a vulnerable thing to do. That's like a lot of self-belief to say, like, this is going to be my
Yes.
job. And it was just this beautiful opportunity to be like, no, I believe in the decision I made. And I can look back and see how much purpose it had. I can see all the impact I've had with the freedom that doing this as my full job has taught me. I have had so many lessons. There is no better mirror for your self-work than your own business, I believe. I mean, intimate relationships, yes, that's another really powerful place for mirroring and growth. But whew, being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, man, it is one of the most potent ways to
Yeah.
accelerate personal growth. And it did that for me these last couple of years. There were some really deep shifts that I believe needed to happen within myself to set me up for some of the things that I want in my life that happened because I went to do my business full time. Right.
Yeah.
And so I can look back and I can see, okay, like I can see how there was purpose in that season. It feels like I've completed some of those things. And again, me holding a focus for what's important to me, the dreams that I have, the things that I feel like my soul is pulling me towards, me keeping that in mind, the universe is like, okay, we got the path that is going to get you there easiest. Right.
Yeah.
We have the path of least resistance and it's going to look a little different. Can you let go of the idea that you thought? And can you just trust? Right. Can you feel into yourself? Let it be something you really want. Let it resonate for you. Right. But can you
Mm-hmm.
trust? And I was like, you know what? I think I can, but
Yeah.
give me a second because I got to shake off some stuff here.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I feel like we could do a whole nother podcast episode on that alone. Like
Yes.
what you just said totally resonates with me. And it's like very
Mhm.
fresh because I just made that leap and I'm
Yeah.
still going through this whole unlearning, this
Yeah.
whole identity label detaching.
Hmm.
It's just a whole process, and you're absolutely right. It is the biggest self development journey that I have ever gone on. And I feel like I'm just dipping my toe in. Like, I
Yeah.
know there's a whole journey to come. So, yeah.
Yeah. We just got to keep our nervous systems as regulated as we
Yes.
can.
Yeah.
Like it's a really big change. Change is danger to the ego mind, right? Because really
100%.
the way our ego mind it works when it's assessing things is it can only predict safety if it's known, right?
Yeah.
If I've experienced it before, if I have some data, right?
Yeah.
To show me that it's safe, then I'll put it in the safe category. But if not, like danger, danger, we can't go there. And anything that's inherently new or a change pushes us outside of that familiar and they therefore predictable
Mhm.
realm that our brain thinks is safe,
Yeah.
right? So even like deep healing work or change in a positive direction is still going to feel dysregulating to the body by design, and that's okay, right?
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I've learned, and I think part of the purpose of me even getting another job is to help regulate and create like this foundation for my body so
Yeah.
that I can kind of reach up into deeper stuff, right? At like, what do they say as below, so above or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like that image of the roots of the tree have to be just as deep, if not deeper than the branches and everything above. Right. So
Absolutely.
sometimes again, like there's just this design. And again, I think that also mirrors like the fear and the soul stuff, right? Like we grow in both directions. And
Right.
so we just we got to honor what our body's telling us about when we need something to just feel a little grounding. If we give ourselves permission not to push so hard for a season and let some things integrate, let ourselves really ground, just rest, great. If it's to incorporate something else that helps us, helps feed that human part of our brain as we're unlearning and
Yeah.
breaking beliefs and whatever, like we got to do what we got to do so that we can have that balance. And I think our intuition is always leading us into balance. Our body is always leading us into balance as we are growing and
Yeah.
evolving.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that was such a good conversation. I just loved all of those nuggets of wisdom. Um,
Yes.
so I have a few just fun little, I'm going to lean into the fun and the joy because that's what we
Yay.
talked about with the intuition. And I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Let's do them. I love a rapid fire. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yes, yes. Okay. So, what is the current mantra that you're living by?
Oh, what is my mantra right now? Um, Guides, what is my mantra? Will you remind me? Is there one I'm saying a lot? I think a let it be easy is a little
Okay.
bit of my energy right now. I'm doing a lot. Again, manifesting generator, there's a lot of things up in the air, and I'm still releasing and kind of deprogramming a little bit of that old mentality that like hard work creates success or you have to somehow work hard to make it happen when my
Mhm.
intuition knows that's not true. In fact, you just have to be in alignment and things
Yeah.
actually can work out even better than if you're working really hard. So I think one of my mantras right now is just let it be easy. As I'm coming into something I'm doing, like literally reminding myself, setting the expectation in my brain of like imagining how might it look if I do this, and it's just like easier than I would have ever thought it would be.
I love that. Okay, firstly, I love when you get into like when your guides speak to you because I see you like smiling and like acknowledging them, like you're having like this conversation without saying anything to them, and it's like the coolest thing.
They're
Um,
so funny. And if you listen to my podcast, you know, I literally, or if you do like channeling work with me, I like look off to the side and I'm like, guys, will you help me out with that? And I'll like drop things into my brain and they're kind of funny. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoy that.
I always like I love that so much. Okay, so what is your favorite ritual for reconnecting with your intuition?
I love using tarot. Tarot is it's so fun. It's so fun. It's so powerful. Again, the guides are really cheeky. Like I
Yeah.
giggle about the tarot all the time. So, if I'm trying to tap into some messages, that's a really good way. I will tell everybody it's harder to read for yourself than it is for other people. So if you feel like you have a hard time tapping into like messages or guidance for yourself, it's part of it. I did a whole episode on that, and I think tarot is a really good way to kind of circumvent the the tricky parts of that. But my other way of getting back into my intuition is honestly grounding. I think root chakra stuff is so underrated in the
Mhm,
healing and intuitive worlds. Like, you got a
mhm.
problem, root chakra first. It's probably going to solve your problem. Like, I'm so sorry to say. Like, I know it doesn't feel like a sexy thing, but like literally movement, like a
Yeah,
dance class, yoga, stretching, go outside for a walk. Like that gets you back into your body. And again, your intuition speaks through your body, and if your body is dysregulated and unsafe, which is root chakra kind of stuff, like you can't hear your intuition anyway.
yeah.
Right. So like sometimes I can feel now when like I'm looking at a screen too much or I've been in my head too much, or even if I've been channeling a lot, like I have to really intentionally get back down into the sensations and feelings in my own body, into my own senses and movement. And exercise is often a really good way to do that. So that's another favorite ritual that I have for connecting with my intuition.
Yes, oh my gosh, I could not agree more, actually. I could not agree more with the root chakra and grounding. It's
Yep.
something I've been trying to be really intentional about, so when you said that, I, like, lit up, like
You knew, girl. Your
yeah,
intuition was already telling you. The guides were like, girl, we got the answer and we're going to affirm it through the synchronicity of Bree saying it too. So
yes, so
we
good.
love.
Okay, and then this is one thing that I ask all of the podcast guests on the Light Her Up podcast. So, what is something that you're currently working on that's lighting you up from the inside out?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you asked this. I have a couple things. Literally as of this weekend, I woke up on a Saturday and I was like, oh, I have an idea. And I was like, sorry, babe, I gotta go up and work. And he's like, okay, cool. My husband's the best, right? And so I go up and I have these new readings that I'm doing for people to help them tap into their soul contracts as it relates to relationships is one reading, and their purpose and career is another reading. Because those are the two biggest questions I get when I do my Akashic Records channeling sessions,
Mhm.
is about navigating relationship dynamics, and then also like, what are my gifts and what am I supposed to do? And like, what is my purpose? Like those kinds of things. So I have two different readings and they're email readings, and I'm using the tarot. I'm like plugging into your soul records, into your Akashic records. And I'm like, okay, Akashic record keepers, help me understand, help give this person the information they need to know about their contracts, the agreements, the objectives that they made with the tarot. I have a series of questions that are so juicy. Curating them with the
Ooh.
Akashic Record Keepers was so much fun. And then I pull the cards and I put it all into a really detailed and practical, because that Virgo says, what's it matter if you can't put it into action, honey? You know? So detailed and practical email. So
Yeah.
you have like a whole blueprint of like, what do your contracts say about your career and purpose, and or what do your contracts say about the purpose between a certain relationship? I have a new relationship reading, a current relationship reading, and a past relationship reading. So the past one's going to be a little bit more about like, what was the purpose? Why did it end? If it feels like you need a little bit more clarity for closure. Current
Mhm.
is how can you help it thrive? What cool things are you doing together? And new is like kind of like, what's the flavor? What's the vibe? So I'm
Ah,
so excited about those. I can do more of them because they're the email readings and more, they can
yeah.
get to more people. They're a little bit more economical too. I know some people like really want to do my Akashic Record ones, and it just doesn't make sense to invest in that session at the time. So I love having a variety of ways that people can tap into like um their own path, like the guidance
Yeah.
from their own teams. so that they can start making moves. So I just created those this weekend and I'm so excited about them. They're available healingwithbre.net. So go check them out. But
That's
yeah, I'm
so
like
cool.
so excited about those.
I can tell how excited you are, and I love it. Like, the energy is
Yeah.
coming through the screen. I love it.
No, I
Um,
did one of them for myself, the career and purpose reading. Like I had like experimented for it with myself and I sent it to a couple friends and they're like, "Oh my God, Brie. Like the
oh,
way that resonates, it feels like it taps into exactly you and it's all information I would want to know and I'm
yeah,
actually going to be using for myself too." So
yeah,
it's so exciting.
yeah, and I love that you said it's gonna be all, like, typed out so
Mhm.
you can, like, reference it.
Yes.
And there's so many readings I've had where I'm like, "Oh, I wish I could have, like, recorded that or, like, have that, like, written down so I can, like, go back to it." And I just wanna say for all of the listeners, you guys, I have personally had an Akashic Records reading with Bree, and it was incredible. Like, it just gave me so much information that I just truly was seeking, and it was, divine timing, I wanna say. Like, it was the information that I needed at that time, and it was so healing, and also just paired with, like, not only your ability to read and tap into the Akashic Records, but, like, your psychic channeling abilities, like, those 2 elements together, I just left feeling so good. I still actually
Mm.
think about that session because it was a really pivotal moment in my personal awakening journey, and my grandma came through in that session. It was so,
Mhm.
so special. Like, my
Aw.
dog came through. Like, it was
Yep.
so special.
Mhm.
I just love it so much. So, highly recommend. It was such a beautiful experience, and I don't think I got to tell you this, but thank you so much because that was a really
Aw.
big part of my journey. So,
Aw.
yeah.
It's an honor to get to do that. Like that is one of the coolest things that I get to do. Like just in this life, I think. Like being the intermediary between really you and like your teams, your own higher
Yeah.
self, but being able to bring that through and like my energy is always about like creating safety and creating compassion and making it really relatable. I don't think that there's any part of ourselves that we can meet that is going to show that we're bad or something.
Yeah.
That's like a core belief that I have, right? And so it doesn't matter what comes up in your Akashic records. It doesn't matter the things that you've done in the past. It doesn't matter the choices you've made or things that you're grappling with. There's always a way through that leads you into greater love, into greater purpose, right? And so to be able to tap into the records and bring through some of that guidance and help people like really affirm the things they really already knew for themselves, but they just needed some help feeling some confidence around is like one of the greatest joys.
Yeah.
And to your point about the recording, it's a 90-minute session. I record all of my sessions
Yeah.
because I'm the same way. I want to listen back. I want to take notes. Like sometimes you're in the zone and like you don't pick up all the little details of it.
Totally.
I want to go back and get the details. So don't you
Yeah.
worry, guys. If you come to a session with me, even if you do coaching with me, they have those like AI note takers now.
Yeah.
And so like if you got notes, you got recordings from me for days because I want you to squeeze all the juice from the lemon.
Mhm.
People say they go back and listen to that reading like 3 months, 6 months, a year afterwards and get more from it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Akashic Record Keepers, thank you so much for whatever magic you infused in that people can still get so much out of it.
Yes.
I'm happy that recording it can be just a little
Yeah.
thing. So I'm so happy that that was so impactful for you because it's a special one for me to get to experience too.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh,
Well, Bree, this conversation was so beautiful and just empowering, I think, especially for the listeners who are going to be hearing this conversation and knowing that there is this dance between fear and intuition, and just giving them like practical tips on how to lean more into the intuition was just really powerful. So, thank you very much. And I want to make sure that the listeners know how to find you. How can they work with you? How do they stay connected with you?
yes, thank you so much. So healingwithbre.net is my website. Anything you can find is going to be there. I'm at healing with Bre, and that's BRE. At on Instagram, I'm also on TikTok. Some of the like ways that you can work with me is I have a podcast as well. If you just like kind of want some of those channeled messages, or honestly, if you just want to get a feel for my stuff, you like what you heard. I'm a big like I got to feel into people. I'll like
Yeah.
lurk on social media a little bit. Do I like your vibe? Do we resonate? Not about if you're good or bad, but just like do we resonate? You
Mhm.
can catch the feels on social media, on my podcast. I have the readings that we spoke about, either the email readings, the soul contract readings, or I do tarot sessions or Akashic Records channeling sessions. And then I do my coaching work. I'm about to have a group coaching program opening up soon. And I think this is going to be focused on relationships, how to build like a healthier, more secure relationship within ourselves, and then also how to create healthier dynamics and relationships outside of ourselves. So that'll be a multi-month program, the community of women that come come into my group programs are crazy. It's like they're kind of the big deal and all of that. And then I have one-on-one coaching as well, which is like a super intensive, like you ready to go in deep and get
Yeah.
dissolve, transmute some of this stuff big time, is in there. I'm probably going to have some spots open up. I'm totally full right now, which is such a blessing. And I'm probably going to have some open up probably by the summer. So depending on like where on that spectrum you're kind of feeling like you'd want to work with me, everything's on healingwithbre.net, which you can also find through the social media. And I'd just be so happy to connect with you guys. DM me if you like the episode or if there's like a certain part that resonated, because I love chatting.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And I'm going to put all of this info in the show notes too. And yes, we would love to hear what resonated with you. So reach out to me, reach out to Bre, let us know. And thank you so much again, Bre. I know so many women are going to leave this episode feeling so seen and so much more connected to themselves. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you. I love the space that you're opening up for these conversations, and I just love seeing you shine. So thank you for letting me come here and just be a part of all of this.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Light Her Up. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to take steps towards a life better than you ever dreamed. I see you, I hear you, and I'm so proud of you for showing up and prioritizing your journey. When you fill up your cup with love, you can pour so much more into the people and passions that matter to you most. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed, left a review, and shared it with someone who could use a little extra light. For more, check out our weekly 5-minute meditations or connect with me on Instagram at The Light Within Collective. I'm sending you my love, and I'll catch you on the next episode.